Picture this. You wake up tomorrow morning, and instead of that familiar weight of anxiety pressing down on your chest, you feel different, lighter, stronger, like you've discovered a secret that's been hiding in plain sight for over 2,000 years. What if I told you that the same philosophy that guided Roman emperors through war, helped slaves find freedom in their minds, and transformed ordinary people into unshakable forces of nature, is waiting for you right now? Every single day, you face moments that test you, the betrayal that cuts deep, the failure that makes you question everything, the rejection that whispers you're not enough, the loss that leaves you feeling hollow. These aren't just challenges. They're the very experiences that either break us or forge us into something extraordinary. And here's what the ancient Stoics knew that most people today have forgotten. It's not what happens to you that defines you. It's what you tell yourself about what happens to you. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, wrote in his personal journal, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Think about that. The Emperor of Rome, with all the wealth and power imaginable, understood that true strength comes from within, not from your circumstances, not from other people's opinions, not from the things you can't control, but from the conversation you have with yourself every single morning. You see, your mind is like a garden. Every thought you plant grows. Every word you speak to yourself takes root. And right now, if you're honest, you might be growing weeds instead of flowers. You might be telling yourself stories that keep you small, scared, and stuck. Stories like, "I'm not strong enough. Life is happening to me. I can't handle this." Or, "Tomorrow will be just like today." But what if you could change that conversation? What if you could plant different seeds? What if you could wake up each morning and speak to yourself the way a wise mentor would speak to someone they believe in completely? Today, I'm going to share with you 9 powerful statements, 9 daily affirmations rooted in ancient Stoic wisdom that will rewire your mind, rebuild your resilience, and transform how you experience every single day. These aren't just pretty words or motivational fluff. These are battle-tested truths that have helped millions of people turn their pain into power, their struggles into strength, and their setbacks into comebacks. And by the end of this video, you'll have a daily practice that will change everything. So if you're ready to stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the architect of your destiny, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment below telling me which of these resonates most with you. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to the channel, because we're building a community of people who refuse to settle for ordinary. And whatever you do, don't skip any part of this video. Each statement builds on the last, and you need all 9 to complete the transformation. Now, let's get into it. Close your eyes for a moment and remember the last time someone cut you off in traffic, or when you got that text that made your heart sink, or when you heard news that felt like a punch to the gut. In that split second, what happened inside you? Did you feel that surge of anger, that wave of panic, that crushing weight of helplessness? Most people live their entire lives believing they're prisoners of these reactions. They think emotions just happen to them, like weather patterns they can't predict or control. But here's the truth that will set you free. Between what happens to you and how you respond, there's a space. And in that space lies your power. Epictetus, who lived as a slave before becoming one of history's greatest philosophers, taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This man knew something about powerlessness. He was literally owned by another human being. His body wasn't his own. His time wasn't his own. But his mind, his responses, those remained completely under his control, and that made him freer than his master. Every morning, you wake up with the same incredible superpower that Epictetus discovered in chains. You get to choose, not what happens, that's often beyond your control, but how you respond. That's entirely up to you. Your co-worker's harsh words don't make you angry. You choose anger or you choose understanding. Your bank account balance doesn't make you anxious. You choose worry or you choose action. Your past mistakes don't make you feel worthless. You choose shame or you choose growth. This isn't about suppressing your emotions or pretending everything is fine when it's not. This is about recognizing that you are not your first reaction. You are not the thought that pops into your head or the feeling that wells up in your chest. You are the conscious being who gets to decide what to do with those thoughts and feelings. When you tell yourself, "I control my response to everything that happens," you're not claiming to control the world. You're claiming something far more powerful: dominion over yourself. You're declaring that no person, situation, or circumstance can force you to react in a way that diminishes you. You're choosing to be the author of your own story instead of a character in everyone else's drama. Right now, as you're watching this, you might be carrying something heavy. Maybe it's a recent loss that's left you feeling empty. Maybe it's a challenge at work that's keeping you up at night. Maybe it's a relationship that's causing you pain, or a dream that feels like it's slipping away. Your first instinct might be to push against it, to resist it, to wish it would just disappear. But what if I told you that this very thing you're struggling with, this thing you see as your enemy, is actually trying to teach you something that could transform your entire life? The Stoics had a radical idea. Every obstacle is an opportunity in disguise. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Think about that. What's blocking your path isn't just something to get around. It's something to go through, something to learn from, something to be strengthened by. I know this sounds impossible when you're in the middle of it. When you're dealing with heartbreak, it doesn't feel like a teacher. It feels like torture. When you're facing rejection, it doesn't feel like growth. It feels like confirmation of your worst fears about yourself. When you're struggling financially, it doesn't feel like an opportunity. It feels like a trap. But here's what happens when you shift your perspective from victim to student. Everything changes. That heartbreak isn't just pain. It's teaching you about your capacity to love deeply and your strength to survive loss. That rejection isn't just disappointment. It's redirecting you towards something better, aligned with who you're becoming. That financial struggle isn't just stress. It's teaching you resourcefulness, humility, and what truly matters. When you wake up each morning and tell yourself, "This moment is my teacher, not my enemy," you're choosing to see difficulty as development. You're recognizing that every challenge contains within it the exact lesson you need to become who you're meant to be. You're transforming from someone who asks, "Why is this happening to me?" to someone who asks, "What is this trying to teach me?" This doesn't mean you have to like what you're going through. It doesn't mean you should seek out suffering or stay in harmful situations. It means you can find meaning in your pain, purpose in your struggles, and strength in your storms. There's a moment in everyone's life when everything seems to be falling apart. Maybe you've been there recently. sitting in your car after a difficult conversation, staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering how you'll make it through tomorrow, or looking in the mirror and barely recognizing the person staring back at you. In those moments, your circumstances feel bigger than you are. They feel permanent. They feel like they define who you are. But here's what I need you to understand, with every fiber of your being. You're not your circumstances. You are the consciousness experiencing them, learning from them, and ultimately transcending them. Seneca, who lost his fortune multiple times and faced exile and political persecution, wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." This man understood that no circumstance, no matter how overwhelming, lasts forever. More importantly, he understood that our strength isn't measured by the absence of challenges, but by our ability to rise through them. Think about the strongest people you know. I guarantee their strength wasn't forged in comfort. It was hammered out in the fires of difficulty. Every time they faced something that seemed impossible, every time they had to dig deeper than they thought they could, they discovered reserves of power they never knew existed. That same strength lives inside you. Your current circumstances, whether it's financial pressure, health challenges, relationship problems, or career setbacks, these are not your identity. They're your training ground. They're the weights in life's gym, and every day you choose to keep going despite them. You're building spiritual muscle that will serve you for the rest of your life. When you tell yourself, "I am stronger than my circumstances," you're not denying that things are hard. You're declaring that you're harder. You're acknowledging that while you can't always control what happens around you, you can control what happens within you. You're choosing to see yourself not as a victim of your situation, but as a warrior in training. This strength isn't something you have to develop. It's something you already possess. It's the same force that got you through every difficult day you've already survived. It's the same resilience that helped you heal from past wounds. It's the same determination that keeps you moving forward even when the path isn't clear. You've been stronger than your circumstances all along. Sometimes you just forget. Let me ask you something that might sting a little. How many dreams have you abandoned because you couldn't do them perfectly? How many goals have you given up on because your first attempts weren't flawless? How many times have you looked at where you are and compared it to where you think you should be, then decided you're not good enough to continue? We live in a world that worships perfection. Social media shows us everyone's highlight reels. Success stories skip over the years of struggle. Everywhere you look, it seems like everyone else has it all figured out while you're still stumbling around in the dark. But here's the secret that perfectionism doesn't want you to know. It's a prison disguised as a standard. Marcus Aurelius, despite being called the philosopher emperor, struggled with anger, anxiety, and self-doubt. His personal journals, which we now know as meditations, aren't filled with declarations of perfection. They're filled with reminders to himself to be better tomorrow than he was today. He wrote, "Be like the rocky headland on which the waves constantly break. It stands firm, and round it the seething waters are laid to rest." Notice, he didn't say, "Be perfect like the rocky headland." He said, "Be like," meaning in the process of becoming, always growing stronger with each wave that hits. That's progress, not perfection. That's improvement, not arrival. That's the journey, not the destination. Every single day you have opportunities to choose progress over perfection. When you stumble in a conversation, instead of replaying it endlessly, you can ask yourself, what can I learn from this? When you make a mistake at work, instead of drowning in shame, you can choose to see it as data for improvement. When you fall short of your goals, instead of giving up entirely, you can adjust your approach and try again. Progress is waking up 1% braver than yesterday. It's speaking up once when you usually stay silent. It's choosing the difficult conversation over comfortable avoidance. It's taking one step toward your dreams, even when you can't see the whole staircase. It's forgiving yourself for being human, while still holding yourself accountable for growth. When you tell yourself, "Progress, not perfection, is my goal," you're giving yourself permission to be a work in progress. You're choosing growth over stagnation, learning over judging, becoming over being stuck. You're embracing the beautiful messiness of being human while still striving to be your best self. Picture your mind as a smartphone battery. Every day, you wake up with 100% mental and emotional energy. Now, where do you spend that charge? If you're like most people, you're probably draining your battery on things that are completely outside your control. You're worried about what people think of you. You're stressed about the economy. You're frustrated with your family members' choices. You're anxious about future events that may never happen. By noon, you're running on 20%, wondering why you feel so exhausted. But what if I told you there's a way to keep your battery at 90% or higher all day long? What if you could channel all that mental energy into things that actually make a difference in your life? The Stoics discovered the ultimate productivity hack over 2,000 years ago. Epictetus taught his students to divide everything in life into two categories: things you can control and things you can't. Then he said something revolutionary. Wealth consists in not having great possessions, but in having few wants. But the real wealth he was talking about wasn't financial, it was mental. The wealth of a focused mind that doesn't waste energy on impossibilities. Here's what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, your responses, your effort, your preparation, your character, your choices. That's it. Everything else, other people's opinions, the weather, the past, the future, your boss's mood, your partner's decisions, whether you get promoted, whether people like you, all of that is outside your control. When you wake up and tell yourself, "I focus only on what I can control," you're making a declaration of independence. You're freeing yourself from the exhausting prison of trying to manage the unmanageable. You're choosing to be a thermostat instead of a thermometer, setting the temperature of your own life instead of just reacting to the environment around you. This doesn't mean you don't care about outcomes. It means you pour your energy into the actions that influence outcomes, rather than worrying about results you can't directly control. You can't control whether you get the job, but you can control how well you prepare for the interview. You can't control whether your relationship works out, but you can control how present and loving you are today. What if I told you that everything you think makes you valuable, your job title, your bank account, your possessions, your achievements, even the compliments people give you, could all disappear tomorrow and you'd still be incredibly wealthy? What if I told you that there's something you own that no recession can touch, no betrayal can steal, no failure can diminish? We live in a world obsessed with external validation. We measure our worth by our net worth. We define ourselves by what we do instead of who we are. We chase achievements like they're oxygen, believing that the next promotion, the next relationship, the next purchase will finally make us feel complete. But here's what happens. We get the thing we thought would fulfill us, feel good for a moment, then immediately start chasing the next thing. It's an endless cycle that leaves us feeling empty, no matter how much we accumulate. Aristotle taught that character is the only true wealth. because it's the only thing that can't be taken from you. Your integrity doesn't fluctuate with the stock market. Your kindness doesn't depreciate over time. Your courage doesn't get repossessed when times get tough. Your wisdom doesn't become obsolete with technological advances. These qualities, your character, are your real treasure. Think about the people you most admire. I'm willing to bet it's not because of what they own, but because of who they are. The teacher who believed in you when no one else did. The friend who showed up when everyone else walked away. The parent who sacrificed for your dreams. The stranger who helped you when you were lost. What made them memorable wasn't their possessions, it was their character. When you tell yourself, "My character is my true wealth," you're shifting your focus from getting to giving, from achieving to becoming, from having to being. You're choosing to invest in the only currency that matters in the end, the kind of person you are when no one is watching. This means that every choice you make is either building or eroding your true wealth. Every time you choose honesty over convenience, you're making a deposit. Every time you choose kindness over cruelty, you're adding interest. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you're building a fortune that will serve you and everyone around you forever. Your character is your legacy. It's what people will remember about you long after they've forgotten what you accomplished or accumulated. It's the gift you give to the world simply by being who you choose to be. Here's a question that might change everything. What if the worst thing that ever happened to you was also one of the best things that ever happened to you? What if your deepest pain contained your greatest gift? What if your biggest failure was actually your most important teacher? I know this sounds impossible when you're in the middle of suffering. When you're dealing with loss, betrayal, rejection, or failure, gratitude feels like an insult. How can you be grateful for something that's causing you pain? How can you appreciate something that's making your life harder? But here's what the Stoics understood that most people miss. Gratitude isn't about pretending everything is wonderful. It's about recognizing that everything, even the difficult things, serves a purpose in your growth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, not because the present is always pleasant, but because the present is where your power lives, and where you can find meaning in every experience." Think about it. Your blessings teach you about joy, abundance, and possibility. But your challenges? They teach you about strength, resilience, and what you're truly capable of. Your easy victories show you what you can do when conditions are perfect. But your struggles show you who you are when everything falls apart. That job you lost, it forced you to discover talents you didn't know you had. That relationship that ended, it taught you what you actually need in a partner. That health scare, it reminded you what really matters. That financial crisis, it showed you that you could survive with less than you thought you needed. These weren't just random hardships. They were customized curricula designed specifically for your growth. When you tell yourself, "I am grateful for both my blessings and my challenges," you're not being naive or masochistic. You're being wise. You're recognizing that a life without challenges would be a life without growth. You're understanding that your difficulties aren't punishments. They're promotions to the next level of who you're becoming. This gratitude transforms everything. Instead of asking, "Why me?" you start asking, "What now?" Instead of feeling like a victim, you start feeling like a student. Instead of resenting your circumstances, you start appreciating the comprehensive education you're receiving in the school of life. Gratitude for your challenges doesn't mean you seek them out or stay in harmful situations. It means you extract the lesson, the strength, and the wisdom from every experience. Then use those gifts to serve others who are walking similar paths. Let me paint a picture that might feel uncomfortably familiar. You're in a conversation with someone, maybe your spouse, your co-worker, your parent, your friend, and they say something that just hits you wrong. You know you're right, and they're wrong. You have the facts, the logic, the moral high ground. You could demolish their argument. You could prove your point. You could win this battle. But here's the question that changes everything. What would winning actually cost you? How many relationships have you damaged in the name of being right? How many peaceful moments have you sacrificed on the altar of your ego? How much mental energy have you wasted trying to convince people who weren't ready to be convinced? How many nights have you lost sleep replaying arguments, crafting the perfect comeback for a conversation that was already over? Epictetus, who understood the futility of most conflicts, taught, "It's impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." Most arguments aren't really about the topic being discussed. They're about two egos fighting for dominance. And here's the thing about ego battles. Even when you win, you lose. This doesn't mean you become a doormat or abandon your values. It means you get strategic about when and how you engage. It means you ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Will winning this argument actually change anything meaningful? Am I trying to prove a point, or am I trying to connect with another human being? Some battles are worth fighting, those that protect your core values, defend the vulnerable, or stand up for important principles. But most of the daily conflicts we engage in, they're just ego wanting to be fed. They're pride demanding to be stroked. They're the small self insisting on its importance at the expense of your larger self's tranquility. When you choose peace over being right, you're choosing wisdom over ego, connection over control, serenity over superiority. You're recognizing that your peace of mind is more valuable than winning a pointless argument. You are understanding that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply let it go. This choice doesn't make you weak. It makes you free. Free from the exhausting need to correct everyone. Free from the burden of carrying every slight and disagreement. Free to invest your energy in things that actually matter, building relationships, pursuing your goals, and maintaining your inner harmony. Right now, as you're listening to these words, you are not the same person you were when this video started. You're not the same person you were this morning, or last week, or last year. Every experience, every choice, every moment of awareness is changing you, shaping you, sculpting you into who you're becoming. And here's the beautiful truth that will set you free. You are not a finished product. You are a masterpiece in progress. Too often we treat ourselves like broken things that need to be fixed, instead of seeds that need to be nurtured. We look at our flaws, our mistakes, our unfinished dreams, and we think we're behind, we're damaged, we're not enough. But what if those perceived imperfections are actually signs that you're still growing? What if your dissatisfaction with where you are is actually evidence that you're meant for something more? Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who's poor." But he wasn't just talking about material possessions. He was talking about self-acceptance. The poverty that comes from constantly rejecting who you are right now in favor of some impossible future version of yourself. You don't need to wait until you're perfect to start living fully. You don't need to wait until you have it all figured out to contribute meaningfully. You don't need to wait until you're completely healed to help others heal. You don't need to wait until you're fearless to act courageously. You are ready now, as you are, with all your beautiful imperfections and unfinished edges. When you tell yourself, "I am becoming who I am meant to be," you're embracing the process over the destination. You're trusting that every experience, the triumphs and the failures, the joy and the pain, the clarity and the confusion, is all part of your unique curriculum in becoming fully yourself. This isn't about becoming perfect. This is about becoming authentic. This is about peeling away the layers of who you think you should be to reveal who you actually are. This is about having the courage to show up as yourself in a world that's constantly trying to make you someone else. You are exactly where you need to be, learning exactly what you need to learn, becoming exactly who you're meant to become. Trust the process, trust your journey, trust yourself. These 9 statements aren't just words. They're weapons against despair, shields against doubt, and bridges to the person you're meant to become. Every morning when you wake up, you have a choice. You can let life happen to you, or you can happen to life. You can be a victim of your thoughts, or the author of your transformation. The Stoics knew something that our modern world has forgotten. True power comes from within, not from your circumstances changing, but from you changing how you relate to your circumstances. Not from controlling everything around you, but from mastering everything within you. Tomorrow morning, I want you to stand in front of the mirror and speak these truths to yourself. Watch how your posture changes. Notice how your energy shifts. Feel how your perspective transforms. This is what it means to live with Stoic wisdom, to be unshakable in a shakeable world, to be at peace in the midst of chaos, to be strong regardless of your circumstances. If this video changed something in you, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear these words. Subscribe for more life-changing content. And remember, you have everything you need within you right now to create the life you want.